Hola, amigos. I gotta tell you, I am still basking in the afterglow of my 2 weeks in Baja. The weather here in San Francisco is absolutely spectacular, but I am still mentally in Baja. The second week, I think I told you about the first week last show, riding motorcycles, driving slow Baja with the guys who were riding motorcycles and had a great time with them. But the second week, I changed gears and settled in for a beautiful stay at Adobe Guadalupe Vineyards and Inn. True Miller was my gracious host, and she and her staff really took care of me. What separates a stay at Adobe Guadalupe from others is, I got to tell you, it's the hospitality. You are a guest in True's home, and it is a damn fine home to spend some time in. There's this beautiful, intimate dining room, I don't know, 4 or 6 tables. I don't remember how many were there, but it's a beautiful fireplace, and it was cold, and the fire is roaring, and one night Robin and Alice, a couple who had met in San Diego 50 years ago, been married 47 years. They live in England. They just moved over to our table. And we had a damn fine time, and we shared a bottle of San Rafael after dinner. We had plenty to share with dinner, and then True and Jose, the agronomer, exited, and Robin and Alice and I sat by the fire and had another fine bottle of red, and it was just very, very a lovely evening, made new friends, and that's, I think, what Adobe Guadalupe is all about. Okay, today's show is with Brook Elgen, and she is an artist down in San Jose del Cabo. I met her in January after my 2,400-mile dirt drive specking roads for the Nora 1000. I've been admiring her work on Instagram at the Evil Scrunchies for quite a while, and since I was going to be in town, she graciously met me from tacos, and we just talked about what it's like. She spends, a good portion of her year in San Jose del Cabo, and I'm always interested about people who split time between here and there. She lives in Mendocino, way up the Northern California coast when she's not in Baja, and she and her husband Terry seem to have a fine life down there, constantly tinkering with a Baja Bug and spending time enjoying their small community. And I hope you enjoy this very, intimate fun conversation with getting to know somebody who makes art and makes jokes and has a fine life in Baja, and I hope you enjoy the show. So without further ado, Brook Elgen, the Evil Scrunchies on Instagram. Check out her work, and I'll be back with a fun show next week. Hey, this is Michael Emery. Thanks for tuning into the Slow Baja. This podcast is powered by Tequila Fortaleza, handmade in small batches, and hands down, my favorite tequila. Hey, I want to tell you about your new must-have accessory for your next Baja trip. Benchmark Maps has released a beautiful, beautiful Baja California Road and Recreation Atlas. It's a 72-page large format book of detailed maps and recreation guides that makes the perfect planning tool for exploring Baja. Pick yours up at benchmarkmaps.com.
Yeah.
Okay, Brooke.
Feel free
if you're a huge
pull the plug.
Dud, Michael, I've been worried about being a dud. All right, Brooke, say hello. Let me get you dialed in.
Hello. Hello.
I think that's the right
Yes.
right distance.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. And,
Yes.
and if you keep it like that
Like here?
close and you speak softly and
Like what is this? This is diva position. Like this.
how many other positions do you have handy? Do you have 6 or 7 other?
I have a wooden microphone. Well, it's a wooden spoon that I
Sometimes sing around in the kitchen?
do like and enjoy singing into it.
We're going to get right into it, folks. I am delighted to be in San Jose del Cabo, sitting outside at a park in the shade with Brook Elgen.
Correct. Yes.
I'm delighted to be outside. I'm delighted to be sitting outside in San Jose del Cabo with Brook Elgen, and she is a magnificent artist. If you're not following her already on Instagram, the Evil Scrunchies with a bunch of what do you call those things? Underscores?
Yeah, there's a couple of underscores involved in the name.
Underscore scrunchies.
Yes.
And I don't know how I saw your work. I just saw it, and I was tickled. And I reached out to you and told you how tickled I was. And anyways, here we are.
Yes. Happy to be here.
And Brooke, we're going to get right down to it, is worried that she's going to be a dud. So if you folks never hear this, you know why.
Yes.
Well, you're here. You're in Zacatitos. Is that how you pronounce it? Which is kind of by Los
Zacatitos. It's on the East Cape.
I ate a bag of those yesterday.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a more exotic
Zacatitos.
pronunciation, but Zacatitos. It means little grasses.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And near Los Barriles, between sort of south of Los Barriles.
It's south of there. It's only about 20 minutes from San Jose.
Okay.
And it's right where the land starts to, the coast is sort of a mix of Pacific and Sea Cortez waters. So it's very rich in marine life, diversity, good fishing. There's good surf spots. It's just beautiful.
Well, we're going to talk about how you got down here, living the, I'm going to say it, expat life without wearing resort wear.
Right.
So keeping it real.
Just say no to resort wear.
Just say no. So a lot of it at our hotel, which is a lovely hotel at the Park Hyatt in San Jose del Cabo. Thank you, folks. But tell me, you're from Maryland and spend some time in Mendocino, which is way up north, folks, on the north coast of California. Beautiful spot. How'd you get here?
Basically met a man who already had a relationship with the Baja through his childhood and camping trips with the family and the whole classic VW bus thing back in the 70s. And he invited me to come down. So we have been driving down ever since. I've been coming down for 20 years, and I've never flown once. And I really enjoy the drive almost more than the destination at times. And
Slow Baja approved right there, folks.
Right.
It's always about the drive.
Yes, it's quite the adventure. So yeah, we've been slowly building a house, and it's fairly complete at this point. And it's...
Are you off the grid completely? You said you're dealing with solar in our...
Yeah, we are living off a solar system, and we have a water storage tank and all those little things. It's interesting whenever people come to visit because they want to know what your street address is, and I give them my coordinates as a test, and I can always tell who's going to figure it out and who's going to panic, call me or email me at some point that they're lost. But yeah, you can never really prepare people for coming down here for the first time. When you, as much as you can try to articulate it, they'll never understand till they get here, where, you know, we don't have trash service and things like that. So it's interesting to be the host to new folks coming down. I've been calling my house Casa de No Vacancy.
Well, you're clean and well dressed, so you must have some running water, or you're able to fool this podcaster.
Yes.
And it seems to me that the benefit of being here is you get to slow your life down a little bit. You get to enjoy things.
Yeah.
What are your observations? You've been here for a couple, decades now, right?
Yes. Sounds scary when you say it like that, but yes.
Well, I was so worried, like when we reached out, I had some delays and, needed to wait for the truck to come back to get my stuff out and and I sent you a message via Instagram, I'm going to be 15 minutes late, and I kind of imagine like that doesn't bother you if you live in Baja.
No, time is different here for sure. And culturally, time is different. There's yes, we'll do that tomorrow, we'll be there tomorrow, or the part will come in tomorrorow.
Or it won't.
Yeah, several weeks, if not months, go by, and you have like your a series of meltdowns as you undo your Americanization, your reaction, and then eventually you're just like, whatever, and then the part shows up. Yeah. It's a test.
How do you know what to do every day? Does Terry say, hey, I'm going for a surf, and you say, that gives me some quiet time to make art? How does it, tell me about the let me live vicariously through you for a second. How do you divide your Baja bliss?
Right. Well, I'm a big time note taker, list maker, so I try to keep any ideas that I have for personal creative projects written down so that I can keep myself on track. And the sun is a big indicator of what I'm able to do from day to day. So I do my dishes when the sun is not beaming in the kitchen window, but I go to the beach and swim later in the day and do my little household maintenance things earlier, and then I have a time carved out for work projects or personal projects. And
we're gonna let this
sweet motor action.
Lack of catalytic converter. Someday the Slow Baja Foundation will have free exhaust repairs for people in need in Baja. For folks who are not sitting here, sorry you're not, we had a magnificent taco lunch at Lateral in the hotel district, which was convenient for me to walk over, and really had a magnificent fish taco on a thin slice of jicama. And it was just divine. Brooke is fair-skinned, red hair, so the sun, like me, it just takes it out of you here in Baja, especially Baja Sur. So yeah, you do have to kind of manage your day around, even here in the winter, around when it's too sunny to do anything outdoors.
Yes. Yeah. And we're pretty good at keeping ourselves busy. And we have a little garden and things like that, but we also, there's a phenomenon in our neighborhood where basically every neighbor stops over at some point in the day and someone always needs a piece of pipe or a part or has a question or just wants to chat it up with a couple of beers and tell a lot of lies, I'm presuming. And we have a lot of characters in the neighborhood, and it's just a rotation of characters coming through that are excellent source of material if I were to branch out into a stand-up comedy career.
All right, or create a series of people-based images of taking some liberties with these folks. But so it sounds like you've got a great community. Yeah, it's a good community. Everybody keeps an eye out on each other's properties. We're here part of the year, so we have full-timers that'll give us the report after a hurricane if we've had any damage and things like that. But for the most part, everybody's looking out for each other. Well, let's get to the advice portion of the show. How do you describe Baja? You've driven here. You said you've never flown. What's your word of advice? First-timer, they're listening to the show. They're like, I need some of that art-making space in Baja Sur and the beauty and eating a mango in the middle of the day and having a beer and it's not even 5 o'clock yet. Yeah. And what's the first thing you're going to say to somebody who's, just hasn't done it and they've watched, whatever news report or this show or that, and they're kind of nervous, like what could go wrong? Yeah. What do you say? I'd say ignore all of that and just get out there and live it. And 90% of, so far 99.99% of everything you hear is hype. And people here are extremely friendly. It's very safe. And there are elements to it that are
not safe as far as American standards. Is like you can be walking down the sidewalk and there's a giant hole, So little things like that we're not used to, that you have to keep your wits about you. And it's nice. It kind of sharpens your instincts and keeps you on your toes. And
that piece of rebar that you may impale yourself on if you're not paying attention, if you're looking at your phone as you're walking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's lots of that. But I'd say go for it. It's beautiful. And if you are an artist or creative person, I mean, this place has Frida Kahlo on their money. So it's also full of color and so much inspiration in the natural world, the birds and exotic insects and things, as well as the people, and the way that color is nothing to be scared of down here as far as painting and signs and signage. It's pretty fun that way, so go for it.
So go for it. So, but we were talking your first trip down with your then boyfriend, not husband. You were talking about your trip with then boyfriend down to see his newly purchased spot.
Yes.
Here with a newly purchased used truck from the flea market.
Yes.
Which is, you buy a truck at the flea market, looks good. The headlights are falling out like only a couple miles down the road. Stuff was breaking. You slept in the back here and there.
Yep.
I'm assuming you've kind of upgraded from then, but you did say that you've got a half-finished Volkswagen Beetle, or not half-finished. You didn't use those words. I'm putting those words in your mouth. You said there's a Baja Bug.
Yes.
A beautiful baby blue Baja Bug.
Yes.
That looks like it needs a little bit of attention here and there.
Yes.
Was missing front fenders in the picture that I saw, but that, still means it could go.
Yeah, well, all of those parts are laying in my yard, so they are there. But it's being wrenched on at all times and is often the center of attention. When the neighbors stop by, there's a little cluster of dudes standing around, and everybody has got a theory on what the right next step is for it. But it's had the former exhaust system was so loud and obnoxious, and it also, when we first started coming down here 20 years ago, we had like literally 3 neighbors, and now we have 40, and so we could go screaming all through the neighborhood dirt roads and not have any issues as far as upsetting anyone or hitting anything. And so now he's currently putting on a new exhaust system that he left and came back the other day, and I didn't even realize it, which is, if you had heard the original version, you would be in shock.
You would know he was 6 blocks away.
Yeah, but it's that was my vehicle for a while, to just go visit neighbors. And I had one neighbor in particular who had all of her grandmother's crystal she inherited, and we would make mimosas and have like craft days, because she's the only one that had an adequate solar system that could handle a glue gun. And so we would go over there.
A glue gun and a blender.
Yeah, exactly. And I would drive over in the Bug, and then somebody would be like, "Oh, I wish I had glitter," and I'd say, "Oh, I have it," and I could do like 700 miles an hour back to my house in the Bug and grab it. So we started calling it the Glitter Runner. But yeah,
today on Glitter Runners,
it's very fun to drive.
Awesome. And what sort of other vehicles have you made the trip down? Because what sort of other vehicles have you made the trip down from Mendocino in? Because that's, it takes me 12 to 14 hours to get from San Francisco to San Diego in my old Land Cruiser down 101.
Yeah.
It's an investment. So are you doing it in 3 days to get down here? Or?
It typically takes us like 4 or 5 days.
Okay. So Slow Baja approved on that too.
Yeah.
Not that
we
you're
take our
seeking,
time.
or I'm giving, unnecessary approvals here, but yeah, nice way to do it.
Yeah, it's just more pleasant, and we try not to drive at night because of the cows in the middle of the road factor and things like that. But we first came down in like an old Ford Ranger that was fairly reliable, and then every time, you know, we do a little upgrade on the vehicle, we would pick up a huge piece of some kind of random metal shrapnel in the road in our tire and be stuck on the road outside of Catavina, and somebody would inevitably stop, and a Mexican, and help us out, and there was usually some kind of food involved at some point, but it was always easily resolved and definitely part of the adventure. But now we're driving a Toyota that's pretty clean, Toyota Tacoma, and it's fairly reliable.
Clean and reliable. I was wondering where you're going with that conversation, that every time you came down in the Ranger and you spent a little money to fix it up, something happened, and it was like a karmic thing, like making you more, creating a vehicle that was more in tune with your local environment. Can't get too fancy. I thought that's where you're going with that. But where you did go with that, I think, is also important for people to understand. So you just said it. Maybe that's somebody's worst nightmare, broken down on the side of the road. What am I going to do? People are going to come and get me.
Yeah.
Well, people came and brought you food and helped you fix your truck, is I'm assuming is what happened there.
Yes.
Right? Or shared food they had with them.
Yeah. Well, they take you into the next closest, you take the tire off, you go ride in the back of their vehicle with 6 other people and get to the next little tire shop, which is like 3 little walls standing and patched together. And inevitably they need some part that they don't have, and somebody else has to go get it. And in the meantime, there's someone just got fresh fish, and now you're having fish tacos, and you meet the whole family, and it's pretty fun.
How has your Baja time influenced you as an artist and your artwork?
It's been the ultimate ideal scenario for me as a creative person, because you have to be creative in so many other realms of your life. You have to be creative about when, this thing, a part fails here and you need to come up with some sort of solution, and you're out in the middle of the desert. You don't have access to a quick run to here, or we don't have mail. We can't get parts delivered. And so we invent little ways to limp along. And it turns out, once you allow that into the realm of possibility, that there are so many things that you still have at your fingertips. And so all of a sudden, every little crusty old fork or whatever becomes this valuable potential tool for something. So that sort of teaches you other ways to apply that in the creative sense. But I also like to gather things that I find down here. Like, I'm working on a God's Eye that is from an old tire iron that I found in the desert, and I have a rattlesnake that I made out of bottle caps, and just a lot of found object things that you can't go to a Michael's craft store and buy materials, so you have to find your own, and I thrive off of that.
Brooke, it's funny, non-artists, you may tune out during this portion of the show, but 20 years ago, when we were in Todos Santos for a month with our children, we took a walk every day. I took a walk, or my wife took a walk when the kids were napping. Our kids were quite young. And it was a long dirt road, and there was some new construction that was happening around that area of Todos Santos. So every day I'd pick up a piece of bent wire, and I had this growing collection of bent wire. I didn't really know that it was being cut off of rebar when they're unpacking, stacks of rebar, and that they've got the rebar. This is how they wired it. But I was really fascinating. I was just so fascinated by how the wire gets so torqued and turned and twisted and tied, and I was picking these things up like one a day. And then I started picking up, I hate to say it, so funny, dead toads. So there's a lot of water in Todos Santos, and when the toads tried to cross the road at night, I guess they got run over or something. And, they stay in the sun long enough, and they're just flat, and they're beautiful. And then I had like 20 of them, and then 30 of them. And my wife said, what the F are you doing with these dead toads outside in the sun? And then when we moved to the mainland, I was thinking, like, what am I doing with these dead toads? I'm like, I'm leaving these in Todos Santos. That's what I'm doing with the dead toads. So the dead toad art project never materialized, but I still have the bag of bent wire that I'm waiting to like do something with. I haven't quite found the inspiration since picking it up and looking at it and bringing it with me. But what you're saying is inspiration is everywhere around you. And if you can reduce the number of distractions from our daily digital, otherwise, filled with images and advertising and stuff, and the ability to pop down to Michael's anytime you want for your whatever art supply you need, that if you just clear your mind of all that, your creativity level rises.
Yes.
And the way you see probably changes.
Yeah. It's I actually have a whole list of things that I've been making or have made over the years. There was a time when you would come down here and you had to get these, I think it's called Laudatel cards.
Yeah, sure.
And they had a little chip in it, and you plugged it into the payphone. And they did a series of the Mexican, like, folk artist art on these cards, and I saved a bunch of those and put them on other found objects. And I have been, I think you saw the cyanotypes I posted. Cyanotypes are sun prints, they're also called, but it's a photographic process where you expose this chemically treated paper to the sun with chosen objects that will then create a silhouette once you develop it, which is basically just rinsing it in water. And we've had for some reason, a lot of very large scorpions this year, and there was one that died, freshly deceased. And I kept him, and I used him for a silhouette, and then I would add in some like old crochet lace that I have stashed away and little objects to make some sort of composition. And was earlier working on making ink with Jamaica, which is the drink down here made from hibiscus flowers, and it makes a really beautiful like magenta red. So natural dyes, there's just so much to work with and inspiration to work with it.
We're going to take a quick break because I'm inspired now. We're going to let me keep a couple tacos in the tank with my friend Jeff Hill at Baja Bound. I'm going to tell you about how great Baja Bound is, and we'll be right back. Hey, do you wish you had joined us on the Nora 500? Well, here's your chance. It's double the mileage, double the fun, double the parties, double the dirt. It is the Nora Mexican 1000. We're going to drive by day. We're going to party by night. I'm pouring Fortaleza tequila. April 30th through May 6th, 2022. We're driving the entire peninsula. You don't want to miss out on this one. Again, if I can do it in my 1971 Toyota Land Cruiser, totally stock, you can do it in any modern 4x4. The Nora Mexican 1000. It's the happiest race on earth. Check it out at nora.com, NORRA.com, or on Slow Baja. Here at Slow Baja, we can't wait to drive our old Land Cruiser south of the border. And when we go, we'll be going with Baja Bound Insurance. Their website's fast and easy to use. Check them out at bajabound.com. That's bajabound.com, serving Mexico travelers since 1994. Hey, we're back with Brook Elgen, and we're talking about art, the creative process, the expat life without resort wear, Baja bugs, putting scorpions and making cyanotypes on them, and just getting daily inspiration from Baja. Can you explain the place? I think I'm already circling back around to that question. Can you explain this place, your existence here?
That is tricky, but I feel like there's kind of two different places happening. There's the town version. I live out in the more rural desert area. But it is this very sort of colorful, chaotic. There's something sort of electrical about the atmosphere here that just feels potent in its vitality, and it is you see things like rattlesnakes and scorpions, and that conceptually you would be like, that's terrifying, I would never want to see those things, but when you do, you're sort of hypnotized and you're drawn toward them, and it's very exciting. Yesterday we went into the old part of town to get a tire mounted for the Baja Bug, and it was on a busy intersection, four-way intersection, right on the corner, and we were just sitting there waiting, and it was just like this chaos everywhere, and all this noise and dust, and it's hot, and the more you sit there, the more it's slowly being visually revealed to you, all the strange wonderfulness of it all, and the people, everyone's waving and smiling and happy, and then there's just bizarre things, like there was a menu for a little sandwich shop, and one of them sandwiches was named after Shakira. And a little picture of Shakira, and it's
Shakira. I just had to throw that in there. It's like the club
strangely,
sandwich.
there's a lot of fodder for the imagination.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Brooke, I'm excited because you have one of your own handmade notebooks here, which is lovely, spiral bound, 8.5 by 11, and you've got a full page of beautiful pencil notes there.
Yes.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, I have some pretty hilarious stories of those stories where if someone were to tell me this is going to happen to you, I would be like, oh my God, I'm never going there again. But having lived through it, it feels sort of like a badge of honor. One of which was visiting a Mexican dentist here.
Wow. Let's go through that, because the other day I bit into this candy. It's one of those local candies. It's not a corporate candy.
Right.
It's a local candy, but it's like a made out of fruit thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize like the other little thing in the bag was like a pit that's soaked in salt. Mm-hmm. So I just thought it was, I had the whatever, you have this part, tamarindo or something, and it's soft and gooey and, salty and just like everything, lime, salt, some sort of hot-ish taste. And then it's like, then you have this thing. And I go to chomp on it, and it's like, aww, that thing is hard as a rock. It's a pebble soaked in salt.
Yes.
But it was a prune pit or something.
Huh.
So I really thought 4 days ago I was going to a dentist somewhere. I didn't know where. I was taking Advil and whatever, and Advil and tequila at regular intervals. But my tooth is fine now, but let's get on to it.
That's good.
Mexican
you lucked
dentists.
out. Yes, I had a toothache, and it had gotten to the point where it needed to be addressed, and so we drove into town.
Town meaning here?
Into San Jose,
okay.
And there's a big bridge coming in over the main arroyo, and I immediately noticed that there were just people everywhere, like some sort of event was happening, and we did not know, but it was Mexican Independence Day.
Oh, yeah. September.
And everyone was just wasted, and there were people shoulder to shoulder, and I had never been to this dentist. They were recommended to me
during the pandemic.
No.
Okay, so people were shoulder to shoulder.
Right.
Okay,
no, this was
gotcha.
pre-pando.
Pre-pando.
And back in the before times, but. Yeah, we were trying to find this dentist's office, which just was right downtown, and everyone was like, yeah, you have to go see this woman, she's great. And we got there, and of course she wasn't there, You have to find a place to park, and it was classic. There were all these people with like sombreros on screaming "Viva la Mexico" and like falling down in the streets. And so we found our little spot, and we get there. She had not arrived, or I think they just stay home or something until somebody calls them. And her assistant was like, "Okay, we got a live one," and they said she's going to be here soon, and my Spanish is very limited. Their English was the same, and so we waited. She finally arrives. She takes an X-ray, and she's like, "It's no problem, no problem." And we start the whole process, and she's going to pull the tooth. It's like a way past its prime molar in the back, and she's like, "Okay, well, hold on," and it just keeps going and going, and she can't get my tooth out, but she's already like cut it into several pieces, and but she just keeps repeating, "No problem, no problem," and at some point, in an effort to calm me down,
I'm gritting my teeth right now.
they
I'm
decided
in a full grimace
to put on American music, specifically Huey Lewis,
Oh, yeah.
who I am not a fan of.
Let's
So
get
I don't
right
know
back
what
to
was
1984
worse. I'm like,
It's
oh,
the power of love. Bump, bump. Yeah, well, he had a couple of hits there.
So this went on for like 2 hours of her trying to pull my tooth, and finally, I heard what sounded like prayers, like "Mi Dios," this and that, and then at some point she's like, "No problemo, I'm going to call my amigo," and now we're waiting for this guy to negotiate his way through the festivities, and he shows up like 45 minutes later, and he's like, "Okay," and he just puts me in a headlock. Well, he showed up with a fishing tackle box, one of those plastic ones, and he puts me in a headlock, puts the chair all the way back, and just yanks that tooth out of there. And he was like, "Okay, now you drink a Coca-Cola." And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's what got me into this predicament. And he's like, no, you have to drink a Coke. You're very nervous, and this is going to calm you down, and it's good for your brain or something. So then they sent somebody to go get a Coca-Cola, and that took like a half an hour. And
Excuse me. Excuse me laughing.
it was hilarious, but insane. But I survived it, and it was fine.
For the record, she still has teeth, folks.
I'm fully capable chewing.
Her husband made her a great set
And
of George Washington wooden teeth. He's so handy.
some abalone shell teeth. Yeah, but it was just one of those classic scenarios where there's like a situation that needs to be dealt with immediately, and you have to go through this whole sort of Mexican obstacle course of bizarre things that typically, well, it almost always involves a Coca-Cola or whatever, but yeah. But I feel like the Huey Lewis part was the worst.
Huey, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Sorry if you're listening, Huey.
Huey, I know you're you're a fan of slow Baja.
Maybe, yeah, right. In another setting, Huey would have been great.
Sure. Okay.
However, I would urge your listeners to get their soundtrack to getting your tooth drilled together right now before
you come down to Mexico. But you have teeth. You've got a great smile. It worked out. And I think that's the point here. You got through it. And you've got to have a couple others. So, let's get into worst case scenarios that you survived.
Okay, well, that's my specialty. There was another incident where one of my neighbors has a pack of pit bulls, and they were, I'd known these people for years, and I've known the dogs for years. I went to visit, and you ring a bell at the gate, and he was not home. And apparently he hadn't been home for a few days. He'd gone to the mainland, and someone else was caring for the dogs, so they were extremely wound up. And one of the dogs, there was a little hole in the fence, and he just perfectly got his giant meathead through that hole and snagged the corner of my mouth and tore it open. And I didn't even feel it. I felt like something on my neck, which turned out to be blood. But I looked at my husband, and I could tell by his reaction something was amiss. And so we immediately drove back into town. This was a different year, pre-pandemic. But we came into town and we went to the Gringo Hospital, and they really wanted us to give them like thousands of dollars in cash before they would do anything. And
you've got a bleeding mouth,
bleeding
face.
And I was like, my husband was freaking out, and I just kind of got up from the exam room and said, let's go somewhere else. And we walked outside, and a taxi driver happened to be coming by, and he was like, oh, I know, no problemo. I know where to take you. So he took us to the local clinic, and we pulled up in front of there. It was a few blocks away, and the doctor was outside eating a tamale. There were chickens walking around and a couple cats. And we went into this place, and it looked like something like post-Iraq war, like everything was broken and falling. There was water dripping from the ceiling into a little pot. And the people were so nice and so just generally cool. They were like, okay, come in, you're going to be fine, no problem. And the woman that helped us said, okay, I don't speak English, so I'm going to call my son who speaks English, and I'm going to tell him what he's going to then tell you. And she calls him, and she goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And then he turns to me and he goes, my mother says you are going to be fine. And so they take me in a room with a couple of police officers that had just arrested some guys that had gotten in like a drunken brawl, and they were zip tied. Their hands were zip tied behind them, and they had similar injuries. And we were like nodding to each other, hey, how's it going? And we all got stitched up together. And there was no anesthesia. My husband had to hold the light for the doctor, which was like some kind of bendy light from Office Max or something like that. And yeah, they stitched me up and sent me on my way. I believe they recommended a Coca-Cola as well. And it costs like $24. And I was totally fine. I mean, I do have a little bit of a ventriloquist dummy scar, but I feel like it adds to my character. Well, and it's a pretty amazing story. And I feel like, if I can survive these things, then it gives you some sort of demented peace of mind that, the human body is capable of enduring a lot of things. And so, yeah, we went back and they took out the stitches, and at some point it was fine. It's no problem.
Well, I didn't want to be crass or judgmental to say like, hey, well, it does give you character, Brooke. But it does give you character. And, it was affordable. It was
very affordable. If you want to get into medical incidents here, this is the place to do it.
Things happen. All right, so let's bring it home.
Yes. How do you segue from that story?
So tell me about where people can find you. I found you on Instagram. Mm-hmm. Is that the spot that you meet the greater world?
Yeah, that is the main hub for all my artwork, my portfolio essentially, and just a little snippet of my lifestyle as well, and the occasional food photo, things like that. Yeah, Instagram is.
And can you describe your Instagram handle?
Oh, the name?
Yes. And where it came from?
The Evil Scrunchies is a name that came as a result of having formerly had a more professional name in the attic studio when I was trying to be, like a legit commercial artist in as far as what I believed it to be. You have to like play the game or whatever.
Illustration. Did you have a rep, or was
no?
So the Instagram was your rep.
Yes.
All right, gotcha.
Yeah. But I had an account, and I had gotten a bit of a following, not huge, but enough. It takes time to develop these things. But I had gotten locked out.
You're telling me.
The struggle is real. But yeah, I got locked out of my account, and it just made me infuriated that you can put so much time into something. And so I decided to, the second time around, not take myself so seriously. And I have a list of fake band names, because that is one of the other things that I like to illustrate is fake album covers for fake bands.
In the show notes, kids, in the show notes, we're going to tell you about what albums were.
The Evil Scrunchies was a fictional band, and I said, let's just go with that. And it happened to be at that time, all of a sudden, scrunchies became popular again. And so it was a little awkward being in like pop-up maker markets next to the woman that was making scrunchies.
Homemade scrunchies. I'm not making fun of you, really. I'm not. I am not making fun of your scrunchie efforts, ma'am.
Yeah, I was like, it's a band, I swear. But yeah, it's a good conversation starter. And a lot of people tell me like very interesting scrunchie related stories, or they apologize for using them, or they're like, I only use them at night, I swear, when I'm sleeping. And so it's definitely is a good way to stand out in a crowd.
So tonight at the club, the Evil Scrunchies. But so you've handed me a fabulous card, note card. You said it didn't sell, and I don't know why. It says, "Greetings from the Great Pacific Garbage Patch," and it has a beautiful 3-masted schooner and some lovely turn-of-the-century hands and a plastic water bottle. So You've got a little bit of irony sometimes, huh?
Yes. Yeah, it's all sort of a big social experiment for me, personally. And I liked the idea that it's very visually appealing as far as the colors, and the content has that Victorian, sailor's Valentine, nostalgic look to it. But then when you read what it says, it's kind of like a kick in the gut. And apparently, people do not want to send cards to their loved ones that have that theme.
I'm going to send my loved one that card. So thanks for making it.
Although my family, we have that sense of humor. So
it's the Evil Scrunchies. There's some underscores in there, but Instagram will get you there any way you spell it. I've been lurking. I gotta say, I've been lurking on your site, checking out your work. So I appreciate you making some time, telling me a little bit about the expat life, how many things can be fixed with the Coca-Cola in the medical profession here in paid content, paid sponsored content, Coca-Cola and the medical profession in Mexico. And really thanks for making some time for Slow Baja. I really enjoyed the tacos and getting to know you and about your work. And I think with the kids in the background, we're going to say that's a wrap.
Yes. Yeah, so, thanks for having me. That was fun.
Take care. Thanks,
Appreciate
Brooke.
it.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that lighthearted conversation with Brooke at the Evil Scrunchies on Instagram. If you're over there on the gram, she really creates some beautiful art. You just don't hear enough about scorpions and cyanotypes and trying to make ink out of Jamaica. I love the inspiration of the deprivation of the store-bought material that she, finds stuff and makes stuff, and I just think that's really beautiful. And I was delighted to have had her on the show. So check her out, the Evil Scrunchies on Insta. And if you like what I'm doing over here at Slow Baja, please take a minute, drop me a 5-star review on iTunes, or if you're a Spotify listener, new rating system over there, please get some ratings in so people can find this show. aren't that many people out there talking about Baja. So if you love Baja, I'm hoping you get to hear me, because I do love Baja and I love sharing these shows week after week. As you know, I'm counting down. Nora 1000 is coming right up. The class is sold out. The slow Baja Safari class is sold out, folks. I'm delighted about that. I'll have 20 people coming in my class. But I do I do need to drop a few tacos in the tank. So if you are able, if you know anybody who needs a 2X or a 3X or an XL, get over there to Slow Baja and buy them a shirt, or send them to Slow Baja so they can buy themselves a shirt. We've got trucker hats back in stock. We've got some knit caps if it's still cold where you are. Do me a kind turn of events and rep that Slow Baja stuff so I can drop a taco in the tank or a gallon of gas these days, which is damned expensive, so I can keep on bringing in these fun stories week after week after week. And I will be back next week with a fun show. So until then, cheers. Have I told you about my friend True Miller? You've probably heard the podcast, but let me tell you, her vineyard, Adobe Guadalupe Winery, is spectacular. From the breakfast at her communal table, bookended to an intimate dinner at night, their house-bred Azteca horses, Solomon the horseman, will get you on a ride that'll just change your life. The food, the setting, the pool, it's all spectacular. AdobeGuadalupe.com. For appearing on Slow Baja today, our guest will receive the beautiful Benchmark Map 72-page Baja Road and Recreation Atlas. Do not go to Baja without this, folks. You never know when your GPS is going to crap out, and you're going to want a great map in your lap. Trust me.